Movie's really dope. You should check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's American Fiction, and like pretty much, bro, like it was just really dope to it painted like what a picture of like what like black creatives are going through in America who are layered and like have like complex thoughts. Because and they're not.
How am I not supposed to react to that? What do you mean and have complex thoughts?
And have complex thoughts and not
Oh, my days.
and the thought is just not like, yeah, you know, I smacked Keisha and that's the book. Like, or that's the story. Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's more. We're more than just that.
I hear you. But
Yeah.
there's a place for all of the textures.
Yeah, for sure.
of the
I agree.
experience, you know what
I
I'm
agree. I agree. I totally agree.
I hear what you're saying.
I agree.
I think that speaks to the frustrations that you were alluding to before we got on this.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, for sure, man. 100%. But yeah, that can get cut out. But anyway,
No, keep that in. That's a very real moment.
yeah, very much.
You know what I'm saying? It's good.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that actually, you know what? Before I start, like that's actually what the movie was talking about. Like, it was just talking about like, you know, how the writer he was considered a genius, and his mom was like, you know, geniuses are usually distant from the world, you know, and one of his girlfriend in the movie was like, you have to learn how to relate to people. Like, you know, he didn't know how to relate to that story. He thought it was like, you know, him being an OG or like, you know, from prison, you know, writing a book he was looking down upon that. But that's a real thing. Like that is a real thing.
Sure.
But also like it's also we're not just that either. Like, you know what I mean? We're everything.
Well,
And-
for sure,
yeah.
you know. But as far as the commodity of the black experience, it's usually the traumatic aspects of the black
Absolutely,
experience become the
100%.
commodity.
100%.
You know, it's like there doesn't seem to always be a lot of inferred weight and validity to the not traumatized experience of being a black and brown person in Western culture.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. And yeah, I wish, but you know what? You know, it's funny. It's like I was getting ready to say, man, I wish the other part was highlighted more or was more mainstream. But it's like, you know, and to prove what to who? You know, really, like, you know what I mean? What is it?
Well,
you know what I mean?
You know, to us, but it alludes to something we've talked about. Like, I love how I keep referencing all of this off-camera stuff.
Yeah,
People
for
about
sure.
to be like, yo, the podcast should have been off.
You're off camera, right?
But you know, it's this zeitgeist, right? It's like the energy that we put out in the world. There's like the psychic thread that connects us all. If all the stories that reach the zeitgeist seem to be the ones that are based around all the pain and traumatic experiences of black folks, and that becomes sort of like the unofficial coding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it requires balance, you know, because we are not the most traumatized people in all aspects. We are not constantly in turmoil. Our best stories don't stem from all of the pain that we've experienced. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's like it's important to also tell those stories, not to prove to anyone, but to add that to the consciousness of the world. You know?
Absolutely, 100%. I agree, man. I agree. I totally agree. Whoa, that's a bar on so many levels. Like, I totally feel that, and that's all. That's the only thing I want. Like, it's and it goes to like with me with music. Like, you know, we need Nas. We also need Jeezy. We also need NBA YoungBoy. We also need, you know, Common. You know, we need everything. And that's why me and my best friend talk all the time. There's no such thing as like real hip hop. Like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say there's real hip hop. You know, it's long as it's coming from the soul, it's coming from your heart. Like those guys' experience, man. Some guys grew up in maybe a trap house, or they grew up in something, and it's, you know, somebody else may come from a middle class Midwestern home and may have a different story.
Yeah.
But you know, I just think they all should be highlighted. They all should be lifted up. You know, like you said, I totally feel that. You know, we are not just our pain. You know, I felt that, man.
100%.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. As you can see, we already getting deep. This is the third time our chemistry better be fire. This is our third time linking up, man. You know, first time Audio went out. Second time, man, my guy came in here. He was struggling.
Oh God,
coughing.
I felt terrible.
Sinus. This is crazy. Let me make sure everything's running right now. Everything's good.
It's fantastic.
Everything's good. And now we're here for a third time with an exceptional artist, designer, community collaborator, pillar, just an all around great human being, man, and a great source of wisdom that we, a young creative like me, definitely draws from and needs in the community, man. Just like the moment we had right there, how he was able to like show me a different perspective. And that's the type of conversations that young creatives, and I wouldn't consider you an OG, but you are OG to me. You know what I'm saying? And we need that in our community. We need that in the village. And that's why, the village has been created, here at Wordplay Cincy. And we're here to highlight Rome, man. What's up, dog?
Appreciate it, man. Hell of an introduction.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. 100%, man. 100%.
I'm honored to be here. It's man. Like we've talked about doing this for a very long time, and just life just didn't make it possible.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, so to be able to do it 3 times in a row in 2 weeks is wild.
That's wild. I feel like you my buddy now, my best friend.
We're hanging out,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Having hours and hours of conversations, man. Like I know you've shared it twice already.
I mean, it's the nature of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, dog. I mean, let's just let's just get to the little bit of the genesis a little bit, man. Tell people where you from, man, and how you got to this place, the Queen City, man. Cincinnati, man.
Well, I grew up in Nigeria, and I moved here to go to college, and I've lived in many cities around the country, but Cincinnati is definitely like home base for me. Start out like wanting to be an artist, but just not sure how to become one. So in college, I wasn't really given the opportunity to learn all of the different facets of creativity. So I studied in arts and sciences and found another love there, which was psychology and philosophy. And over the years, I feel like, I've just been like just saying yes to things and yes to taking chances. And somehow it's rolled me back around to creative services.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome, man. And I know you spoke on that a little bit before, man, that you come from a community oriented space in Nigeria, man. How have some of those, some of your upbringing and some of your early, some of your early childhood, how has that kind of drifted over here and molded you into you are in this space?
Something about that process is like I never really thought about it until recently. I feel like you get to a certain point in your making and then you're becoming rather, and you just start seeing things differently. You start reminiscing. You start having conversations like this to force you to sort of remember how you were doing the thing. You know what I mean? So that sense of community is something that like was just stitched into my fiber. So I never knew how to learn to do it. You know what I'm saying? It was always automatic. Like I don't know if I could have ever like I can move to another city and within a week, I would know the coffee shop owners. I would know the grocers, the cashier people, and I would be unintentionally but intentionally building a small community of like producers and people who I'm sharing a space and a life with. Yeah. So it's just something I just do, and I do it I do it creatively as well. It's like, I'm always paying attention to what people are working on. And when I see people, I'm just like, we have good conversations about, what's inspiring them and what they find interesting. And I just watch and I'm try to be aware. And whenever an opportunity comes up and I can like think of 35 people that I can be like, okay, so you're working on this. I wonder if this will be up your alley, if you're interested in working on it with me, or if you just want the opportunity for yourself, you know what I mean? And then try to put people in that position and give them that opportunity so that like we can keep the thing going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's fire. Just that level of presence and awareness, just being present and just being cognizant of your community. I feel like that's how you truly, build community. You have to be of it. you know, you can't, like my best friend says, you can't look down upon it. You can't sit on the soapbox and just say all these other things. Nobody's putting me on. Nobody's doing this. Like, you have to be with the people. You have to, you know, be with it, man. And you know, just before I kind of take the deep dive on that, man, I want to ask a question, man. How, you know, are your parents still around? Are they still living?
Yeah, my mother is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your mother, what does she kind of think about, you know, you leaving? Is she in Nigeria still?
No, she's in the States now.
She's in the States? Okay. What does she kind of think about now? Like, does she kind of see this coming for you? Like, what, you know, I know you mentioned, like, you know, like, you know, about doctors when you were a kid, about being a doctor or something, man, you know. What does she think about you now, man?
I mean, she's settled into a perpetual state of worry.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
You know, I mean, she travels back and forth, you know, from here to Nigeria, because we still have some interest back home to oversee and stuff. But like, you know, I like being an arts oriented person and working in the arts is not necessarily one of the careers that they imagined would be a thing. You know what I mean? And, you know, even when I said I was like going to study philosophy and psychology, it was as if like I just like shut out the sun. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
You know, it's like, well, you know, I mean, my folks are educators. So it's like, so like school always came pretty naturally to me. I feel like the first time I studied was maybe like my third year in college. Okay.
You
know what I mean? Yeah. So everything just came very naturally, thankfully. You know, I was lucky to be that way, but like it also made it so that I never had the drive to find the thing. I was just sort of coasting, sort of rolling with whatever comes my way. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I always knew I always knew that I'd find something, because that's just how my life usually works out.
Yeah.
And my folks were just like, this sounds insane. You know, because I have an older brother who's also who studied jazz. He studied philosophy and jazz music.
Oh wow!
College.
Yeah, that's dope.
So like super talented, multi-instrumentalist. You know, one of the best people to have a conversation with about just anything.
Yeah.
And you know, that decision did not sit well with the family. You know,
I bet.
So he went first, and then when I came back around on his heels, like, you know, and I have another brother who's a civil engineer, another one who's a doctor. So, you know, they got their professionals and stuff. But like, but I think being the youngest, I was sort of given the opportunity to, or should I say, I took the opportunity to just like say I'll figure it out. You know, I mean, it's gonna be okay. But yeah, it's like she'll still call and be like, how's everything going? You know,
still being a mom.
Oh my gosh, it's intense. You know, it's like she and I just worked together on something recently, because she reached out to me about a nonprofit she was starting. She's like, I need your help with some design and
that's dope, man.
And stuff like that. So it was fun working with her on that, and I think that gave her a good sort of perspective on what I do. You know, because most people from the outside looking in, when they think of brand strategy, they're just like, well, you know, I got a cousin's like friend who makes stuff on the computer. That's what you do for me. Right. I'm like, it could be a little bit more deep than that, a little more intense, a little more involved, you know. So like we went through the process. I treated her just like a client, you know. We went through the naming process. We went through why there was a name, built the brand story, got her elevator pitch together, designed her website, designed her brand, designed merch.
Fire.
I went super hard.
That's fire. That's fire, dog.
on her project. And when we were done with it, she was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah, man.
That's what it looks like.
That's fire, man. That's fire, man. Like, and you know, we're you know, we were talking about off camera.
Yeah.
And I was just telling you a little bit about, you know, kind of like, you know, going into schools, doing like podcasting and stuff like that. You know, I would have, man, it would have been really cool for me as a kid. I had something like that at I took a communications program at Hughes High School, but what do you think, man? Do you think, man? How can I ask this? How do you what do you think about the future of like, like education and adding in, these type of ingredients, like learn about design and how to design websites. Do you think these things are still important? Do you think AI is going to take that over? What do you think, man?
It's something that's come with a couple of conversations. I had to give a talk of about a month and a half ago just on this very subject. And, I think the industry is divided on whether it's an assistance or is it a hindrance. But I think what it's going to do is there's always like a reaction to a new technology that's like very extreme in the beginning. But realistically speaking, I think the core of human beings will always chase the most human thing. So where we're moving is going to be a ubiquitousness of just like an immense amount of visuals available, like hyper realistic, hyper contextualized X, Y, and Z. And then we'll see an opposite reaction of things being more hyperhuman.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So there's always a space for creative thinkers.
What do you mean by that? How do you mean by hyperhuman?
To be hyperhuman?
Yeah.
I'm still working on this concept, so I don't have a full on definition yet.
Yeah.
But like the way I see it is like, it's like you can make the most beautiful image on Midjourney, correct? And put a frog on Mars and it looks so beautiful, right? But very few things can translate something as simple as like the feeling of water running on a hand. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like very few things can sort of mimic the humanity, the tactile experience of being a human being. And creatives know how to create that. They instinctively find the right light for a photograph. They instinctively tweak how they produce a video. They instinctively tweak the colors on a paint palette. And like I feel like that human touch is so hard to create that those who are doing it the best are the ones who are going to continue translating creative across the board.
Got to make some noise for Rome. That sounds crazy. had to give a round of applause for that. That's crazy. Because like all I could think about was like, wow, how can I actually make somebody like feel my music?
Exactly.
Like actually feel the drums.
Exactly.
Coming down my arm.
That's it. That's what hyperhuman is. Like, how do you connect on a deeper level in a world that's becoming increasingly artificial?
Wow.
That's it.
That's something to think about. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's where we will be headed. I mean, yeah, especially if you see guys like Elon Musk putting chips in people's head. You know what I'm saying?
That was inevitable. Yeah, to happen at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I see why. I mean, especially if somebody is like having like, like people are paralyzed, and I can like help them walk again and stuff like that. Man, I think it's cool.
There's technology is a beautiful thing. It's the way we use it and the way it affects our day to day, sometimes it's not the best. You know what I mean? It's like to have an entire generation of people who couldn't tell you their address because they've only known how to look for it on Google Maps is a problem.
Yeah.
So like, but it's only a problem to those who knew it before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for these kids, they're like, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. 100%.
It's like this technology is here forever.
Yeah.
We're over here like, well, what if it's gone? They're like, why would it be gone?
Why would it be gone? Right, because I remember MapQuest.
You know what I'm saying?
To go over girls' houses.
That's right.
Print out pieces of paper and like look at it in the dark and like see where to turn. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy.
So like all those things are super inevitable, but like there is always going to be this, it's hard to explain, but the intentional connectivity, the community building instinct within all of us will always make us reach for the most human thing. Like I cannot see a humanity that's not constantly dealing with the tug of war, the push and pull of trying to find each other and trying to connect with something that's deep within each other.
Yeah, that's deep, man. Yeah, I hear that, man. And I feel that. I literally feel that. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
Yeah, man. I hear that on so many levels, man. What do you, now you're here, man. You've been here for some time. How long have you been here, man? You're here in Cincinnati, man?
Quite some time.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, man. And, you you've built a community around yourself, and I know you said you don't really think about it, man, but how was it? I asked you the question. I asked you this question on the last
Sure.
time, but how was it, man? Just as a young person, man, navigating the art spaces and building community, man, and kind of finding your footing, in this space.
I think I was lucky because like I wasn't trying to do it. You know what I mean? I wasn't even aware of what I was creating, and but I was always like, I try to be as intentional about being aware of the people around me and speaking into them positivity and being supportive and doing my best to learn from how they move, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So before I started like a creative services company, it was just like throwing parties and taking care of people and connecting folks and going to places and meeting owners and managers and like just doing the automatic networking thing without really thinking about it. You know what I mean? And once it became a thing to, well, how can I turn this fun hobby into something that can sustain me economically? Mm-hmm. That's when it became interesting, because then I'd have to like adjust what I was doing and also make sure that I wasn't treating people like they were a transaction or potential opportunity, which is a fine line to dance on.
Yeah. So
then my approach in the beginning was just like, well, we're all friends, we'll just do friend stuff. But the thing is, once money comes into the position, then once you start paying your friends or getting paid by your friends or getting paid because of your friends, that changes the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
So then you have to learn the extra layer of navigating what that looks like and how to best approach it. So then that becomes another sort of pain point in the building community aspect of things. And then you add on to that sort of like, when your personal profile starts getting raised, what does that look like for all the people connected to your community? Mm. And are you making it a point to rise everyone with you, or are you the kind of person who's just like, it's just too much of a responsibility for me to like get all of y'all on the same page with me, so I just got to go do the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's like the challenges of building a community are really complex at the point when there's something to lose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it's just like homies doing homie stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And you will spend the rest of your time chasing that dragon.
Yeah.
Because once you've experienced it, like I've seen so many movements start in the city and other cities. It's usually a group of like, 8 to 20 kids who are just like, they're just experiencing the same wavelength, and they got the energy. Wherever they go, 40 other people show up too, which gives them economic power and cultural power. And then they use that to develop a thing. And then once there's something to lose, the pieces start falling off the thing, and it's a painful thing to watch happen. Like, and you try to be the person who just like shows up and be like, yo, here's what I think is going to happen. So like, here's how I would have navigated it. But you also know that the person who's now the leader of that group did not want to be the leader of that group. So now they're navigating what that looks like to no longer be a part of the homies and be the one the homies are looking to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And they don't want to hear anything.
Sure.
They're like, what, man? I'm just trying, like, I'm too stressed out to have your stress be part of my stress.
Right. I heard that.
And you're just like, whoa. Because I've been there, multiple iterations, and it's just one of those things where, so to answer your question yet again, is community is ingrained in me. Like, I don't know how not to connect with hundreds of people, and I'm learning that as much as I do it naturally, that I have to also make room to just be by myself.
Absolutely.
And I also understand the power of a community of people that you galvanize, as well as the responsibility of galvanizing all of those people. So nothing comes without some sort of opposite reaction. You don't just like, be at the helm of 2,000 people and not absorb the frustrations, the pain, the joy, the wants, the needs, the dreams deferred of all of those individuals.
I heard that.
Yeah,
I heard that, man. And you know, I kind of want to explore that a little more because it makes me think about you know, when these communities or these groups of, you know, kids that grew older and developed these spaces, you know, sometimes they may go a little further. And then I think, like we also talked about off camera, how some people may withhold information. Like they may withhold, you know, it's like oh, you don't have access. Like, you know what I mean? We can't let you get these emails, and we can't let you get, you know who to write. And it's almost like a mindset of lack. Like there's like, you know, like we can't share. You know, why do you think it's important, man, to be, I don't know if the word is vulnerable, or to be open and to share and have that abundance of sharing, and that there's room for all of us? I know, because you have a different perspective as somebody like me I grew up in the city.
Sure.
And you know, I see these things happen all the time, and me personally, I'm like, yeah, come on in, let's talk, let me share your story, let me share, if you know, this little platform I have, you know what I mean? But you know, why do you think that mindset is here? And then and why do you think it's important that we should, you know, embrace, you know, helping each other, man?
Well, you know, I'm going to preface this with something I said in the last interview that I thought about after our first interview. You know, I definitely recognize that I'm a transplant to this city. So all this talk about Cincinnati love, X, Y, and Z, it's like, I understand that I'm also the recipient of a lot of goodwill in order to have achieved and built the things that I've had the opportunity to build. You know, I've had to lean on some very, very, very important and helpful people in my journey to be able to get here. It has also taught me, on a very real level, the importance of opening the door and keeping it open for everyone. To not be a vetting process for the vetting process people. You know, and to explain, the best way to explain that is just like, you know, this idea that like, that you have to show that you can speak the language and use a cutlery in a certain way in order to be able to show that you've grown enough to be in a certain space and to be able to create with these certain people. That is all gatekeeper mentality. You know, that is unfortunately a reaction, from my opinion, of just like, you know, having scarcity mentality. Now, in the arts, in the nonprofit, in the creative services space, it does feel like there is not a lot of opportunities available. It feels like it goes to the same 15, 20 people every time. So it's a very real frustration to go through. And when those 15 people get the opportunity, they seem to only know 3 other people. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that is how all corporate structures occur. It's like you give opportunities to the closest friends that you know, because one, you want to be like, well, I know you well enough to trust that you're going to deliver with my reputation on the line.
I hear that.
And then 2, I know who you're connected to and who this is going to help. And then 3, I know that you're going to give it back to me when the time comes. And you can guarantee that with maybe 3 people, can't guarantee that with 40 people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my approach, at least something I've learned over the years, is like, if I ever find myself in a room, I don't go, I got that in lieu of you. I go, why aren't you in here too? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I'll go, okay, let's figure out a way to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any sense that this is just me.
Yeah.
Because I can't speak to the perspective that you're going to bring into those spaces, and those spaces need that perspective. This idea that, like, you know, you want to get the minority voice in the room. Well, we just talked about this earlier. There's a myriad of minority voices, and they should all have space in those rooms.
100%.
You know, but there's a reason why they keep those tables just as long and have just as many chairs in them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
You know what I mean? So they go, well, we can only fit 20 in here. You go, well, then you're not actually serving the people you think you're serving.
Facts. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And that's why, like, I kind of wanted to create this space because like I wanted to like, provide a space, where it wasn't about what you were wearing or, how cool you are. It was just like, it is open. It's wordplay. We help young people. So I don't know if you get on here and say how bad you smack Keisha. Like I don't know if that'd be cool. But like everybody's welcome. Oh
my God.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like violence is never okay in my opinion.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not at all.
But like, all stories are definitely, I want to uplift all those stories because, we work with people who work with kids who come from homes that they don't have parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They come from these spaces. So these are the stories that I'm always trying to uplift and get those stories told. And that's a real thing. And I think my issue is I'm not trying to go off the deep end, but my issue with that is that I want those actual stories to be told and not somebody who may not actually come from that and is telling a story to appear more gritty or more something else. Is like if you grew up in a place where it may have been a little more structured, that's okay. That's a voice. Like we welcome that. And that should be told. Like that's a perspective. Like give that. Like you know what I mean. And then I appreciated that about early Kanye. He didn't come off like he wasn't. He was from Chicago, but he wasn't somebody else from Chicago.
Sure,
you know what I mean. So,
sure.
All voices are welcome, man. And I think that's important, and I think that widens, not even widens. I think that deepens everything, man.
I mean, can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, man, for sure.
Because like while you were saying that, something that dawned on me is just like it seems to be traumatic and painful past are the authenticity that people borrow.
Yeah,
and it's rarely like I come from a 2-parent household and we weren't rich, but we were doing okay. You know what I mean? Or like when you hear some people go, man, I'm just boring. I'm just insert any ethnicity. And then you just go, well, why is that authenticity considered boring? Why is that perspective or that lived experience considered like in their opinion, like why is that considered not interesting?
Absolutely.
And I think as a culture from the outside looking in, because I am an immigrant here, who consumed American culture from across the ocean, and the idea that like the more painful the experience, the more like virtuous or more interesting, or the more of the hero's journey that you're walking because you've been through turmoil, the better the story is. I feel like that as a perspective seems to be prevailing on all platforms and all mediums. Like it's boring to tell a story about like a mom and a dad figuring out how to like raise 4 kids.
Yeah,
that's
not easy.
No, it's like he got to be coming from jail. She's got to be dealing with like a father who was a drug addict. And, the kids are in school and they're being called the N-word and like all these like intense experiences. Like real life is really intense, but that all of our stories cannot always have that level of conflict.
Yeah, I agree.
Nor should they be that specific kind of conflict, that sort of like soul wrenching, gut wrenching, intensity. Because like when I first came to the States, I was always like in a weird space because like I've never, and I probably never will be able to fully understand the experience of an African American.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Because that history is not stitched into my bones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't move with that energy. So when I first came to the States, it was always like, why you sound like that?
Yeah.
And and I could never really sort of like find my equilibrium inside of any of the individual cultures. And I just found myself like creating a community of just everyone.
Heard that.
I
heard that, man. I heard that. That makes me thank you for sharing that, man. And that that makes me think about a conversation I had with my father, just about, about things that are normal and things that are normalized.
Ooh,
and
that's a bar.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely. Shout out to Pops with the gems, man. And
Heck yeah.
and he was just talking about how, like, for an example, a single mother or a single father, that's normalized.
Yeah.
It's not normal. You know what I mean? To raise a kid by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's not normal. It's not normal to sit across from somebody who just, murdered a couple people. You know what I mean?
No.
It could be normalized in media and in these things. Like, these things happen, but these things are not. They're not normal.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And these are real stories. And my friend tells me all the time, like, he grew up in Watts, LA. He was like, man, I wish I didn't go through that.
Yeah,
I wish I didn't come from that. Why do people want to borrow from that? Like, why do you think why do you want to take pride in that? Like, why do you want to share? And that's okay. He's like, man, I'll share that story.
Right.
Even though I don't want to share that story. It's a little painful for me.
Sure.
But these things are, they're not normal. They've been normalized, man.
It's well,
yeah.
It makes money.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes money.
So if you can turn it into an industry, that'll do it. You know what I mean?
For
it's
sure.
like,
yeah.
We aren't telling stories of, like, black neighborhoods or minority neighborhoods getting together and planting farms to feed the homeless and feed underprivileged families, because that's not a bar.
Yeah, right. It's not a bar, right?
You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
But it shouldn't just. If anything, it should encourage us to tell more of those stories.
Yes.
To normalize the experience of not just coming out on the other side of trauma, but living a life that's actually not filled with trauma.
Yeah.
It's like, that exists.
That exists too, and that's
that's
a good story in my opinion.
That's a good story.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that story. And it's not that I don't, and I always want to let people know, like, I'm not looking down on those other stories.
Sure.
I know those stories. Like, you know what I mean? I have family members that went through these stories. Like, I am a black person that grew up in America. I'm aware of these stories, and I'm aware of all the slave stories that continue to come out. But I want to see I want to see the dude that wins. Like, want to see that brown guy that didn't grow up with any pain and now goes back and has a different perspective and helps other people look at things differently or something.
It's definitely a thing. I mean, like, from my experience, it's like coming to the States, being sort of seen as, like, the person who survived the famine, because, like, all over TV, there are all these, like, pot-bellied children with flies on their faces.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm just like, that was a part of my experience. Like, I had a traumatic life. And that wasn't a motivation that brought me to the States. It was still a beautiful upbringing. It was still a place where, first and foremost, your neighbors were trying to make sure that you were good.
Yeah.
Your friends' parents were parenting you just as much as your parents were trying to parent you. Yeah. Your friends' parents were the teachers at your school. Yeah. So you just be getting, like, a multiple reiteration of, like, yo, we heard about you. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And when there'd be celebrations, like, we all got together and made things together to celebrate. Everyone who started a business in the community was supported by the other people who own businesses in the community. It's like, it's like they don't show that on TV because that's not what UNICEF can get donations for.
Right.
So my experience is always sort of like, well, I mean, I got to tell more of the story of growing up in Nigeria.
Right.
And it took me a while to turn that corner because, like, coming to America, there's, like, this forceful need to assimilate. It's like, it's almost like in the water. You know what I mean? If you were trying to be in any way sort of less American, they'd be like, why are you here then? And, like, I could never really articulate it until recently, just like, where I come from, some of the best human beings I know came from there. Some of the most intelligent, some of the most creative, some of the most able people that I know. And, and they didn't have to become Americanized to be that way. They were doing it in their language, in our language. They were writing it in our language. They were singing our songs and telling our stories. And, So being American doesn't necessarily make you sort of doesn't mean that you've learned the etiquette of the utensils at the table to be invited to the room.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what
I
I'm
heard that.
saying?
I heard that. Yeah.
So, and that's how I always saw it. It's like, the more I understood the language of America, the better I'll be overall and be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, it's really it's more internal than external. It's the more comfortable, the more welcome you are with your joy and your pain and your frustration, your confusion, your style of learning, your style of disseminating information. Like those are the things that you connect more to yourself, you're good to go. So I've been having these conversations a lot recently, with a lot of there's a lot of immigrant frustration going on in the West.
I bet. Yeah.
And so you'll just hear someone who hears me and assumes that I'm American and starts talking to me about these immigrants. And I'll be like,
Whoa.
I hear you. You know, it's like, this is not my country, but I'm here. You know what I mean? And something that I feel like I'm going to try to translate this well, but like I had a Uber driver who was like, I was trying to explain that I was having trouble. I took too long because I was having trouble getting my order from a cashier. And they'd said something along the lines of like, I mean, if I was going to go to another person's country, I'd take the time to learn their language, wouldn't you?
Oh, wow.
And, typically I would just try to have a softer conversation. But that day I had time, you know what I mean? And I was like,
stood on business.
I was like, let's talk about it for real.
Yeah.
And I was like, here's something I don't think I've ever articulated well over the years, but like as an immigrant, like, and as someone who's like experiencing a level of sort of like reverse assimilation, the reason very few immigrants, if I were to say a percentage, I'd say 95% of the people who immigrate to the West don't come here because they want to leave the place where their great grandfather and grandmother used to walk to drink from the same river that their grandparents met at, or climb the same trees that their great grandfather planted for the next 5 generations to enjoy. They don't want to leave places where they get to speak their language, eat their food, smell the air that they were born into. The reality is, if the West exists from having siphoned so many resources from those places that they're almost unlivable. So the reality is this: if you empty my river to fill up your well and I show up to your yard, I'm just trying to get my water back.
Woo!
You know what I'm saying? And that is it.
Yeah.
It's like, at least for me, I can't speak for every immigrant in the world, but that is an experience that I've had a hard time articulating well, as in like, I didn't come to America to become more American. I came to America to get the resources that used to be a part of my heritage. And hopefully in the process enrich the people, whether it be culturally, whether it be through my output as a person, give something to the society and the culture that I find myself in as well, because that's how I move.
I had to. I had to, dog. Whoa. I'm glad we did this a third time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's so beautiful, man. And like, dude, like, one thing I think is really, and I want to touch on something you said. Well, really something that stemmed from something you said is like, they're not showing that mind. They're not showing these thoughts. They're only showing hungry, poor, nothing, and as knowing what I know now, I would love to know that. I would love to know what people from other countries are thinking.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I would love for that to be portrayed. I would love that. It would make me even want to come visit.
You should.
And you know what I mean? It makes me want to.
100%.
Yeah, it makes me want to. It makes me want to know more. And it creates that dialogue. That creates community. And instead of like, oh, don't come here. It's funny. I had a teacher in my freshman year of college, and I was just an ignorant kid. I didn't know anything, and she was talking about Africa just in general, and I was like, why would I want to go there? And laughing with my friends, ha ha. And she was like, you are lost.
Oh no.
Yeah, and she's like, you are lost, because I mean, I just didn't know. I was 18. Right. I was 18 years old, never been anywhere, didn't know nothing, just talking, trying to be a class clown. And then, and I look back on it, I'm like, I was such an idiot.
Well, the most creative people are class clowns.
Yeah, for sure. Right. For sure.
It's real talk.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, man.
But it's an important conversation to have, because like, I always like anytime I have a conversation with an African American about culture, I always like, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with an old friend of mine, Alexander, because I was like popping off about like something happening culturally in the country. Yeah. I was like, black people this, black people that. He goes, and I'm like, how come like y'all don't speak up in these rooms? You know what I mean? I was like on one, Yeah. And he pauses, he goes, I don't think you even understand the privilege you have, man. I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, you have the privilege of having grown up in a black majority country.
Absolutely. But I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? And,
I heard that.
And that your conversation didn't need to be prefaced through the filter of other cultures or other ethnicities. So it never even occurs to you to not speak up about something. But we have the experience of speaking up and being shunted off into neighborhoods, dilapidated school systems, and X, Y, and Z. So it's like our perspective is different, and our experience is different. Absolutely. And you need to know that. Yeah. And I've never forgotten that. It was a conversation I had I think maybe 8 years ago.
Wow.
And so I always think about that. Yeah. It's like, but I always say to them as well, I think it's important that you have the experience of at least 6 months of your life, whether it be combined or at one time, go home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Come find your people, because it's important that you go there, but not as like someone who's taking even more resources, as in like people's energy and love and food and mine them for Instagram content. Just go live.
Just go to unplug. Yeah.
Just go live. You know what I'm saying? It's like, don't try not to show up with the energy of like, well, the dollar stretches further here, so we're going to come up here and buy up a bunch of like estates or whatever. No. Go there, integrate with the community, and really see how people are living, and find yourself in them. You know what I mean? Because that's all of us. You know what I mean? It's like, as much political strife and danger and turmoil that occurs in like societies that that unofficially are the feeding trough of the developed world. When you get down to the community level, you encounter some of the most connected people. Some of the people who, for them, living intentionally isn't a choice. It's just a part of who they are. The water they drink, the food they eat, how they take care of themselves, how they take care of other people. All of those things come so intrinsically. And it's when you get to when money comes into play, when big money comes into play, just like we talked about earlier, those things start breaking. Yeah, they do. You know what I'm saying? They do, man. So, any African American, that I meet, I'm just like, yo, go back, find a way to make it back home. Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? But go as if you can, with the intention of becoming a part of a community, and not necessarily like a celebrated black person. Yeah. Because there's a lot of joy in that, and the ego feeding that comes with that. But ultimately, I would say the most genuine worth that you'll get out of it is to have the matron in the community call you son or daughter. You know what I mean? And you walk into their home, they have a bowl of water ready for you to wash your hands. You know what I'm saying? They're asking you whenever they see you, have you had breakfast? You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
So that's what you want.
Yeah.
That to me is what home is.
I mean, to see a continent filled with people that look like me.
Come on.
That's crazy. Just the thought of that is wild.
That's real.
I know it is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it should be experienced. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not trying to create like some sort of like tourist experience.
No, absolutely
not.
not.
It's like, you know, go and just live. You know what I mean? It's like it'll shift perspectives in such a good way. Cause even like African Americans in this country, some of them anyways, do see people who are fresh off the plane as somehow like they don't know what like they're backwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they become a target, and they also assume that we from the continent think there's something wrong with them because they're not from our experience. But all that shit is, excuse my language, but all that stuff is just like colonial separation. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
You know, there is no, this is more black and less black.
Yeah.
There is no, this is this and that.
There's
just two different parts of the same tapestry, and we belong together, and we should be able to share with respect, appreciation, and a huge deep well of want to and love. You know what I mean?
Agreed. And I think that goes back to how we started. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, there is no, you know, it's all our experience. It's
100%.
all us.
100%.
You know, it's all us, man. And it's all beautiful. It's all dope. Everything, people from everywhere. And nobody should feel ashamed for that, man. And
for sure.
That's so amazing, man. And I love, and I think that's what a lot of, you know, African Americans didn't have that community growing up. They didn't have that. I know me personally, I was blessed. Like, you know, over in Wynn Terrace, man, my great grandmother used to have like these yearly or every Sunday, she would have these cookouts, and the whole block would be packed, man, with barbecue, man. Everybody coming out, man. She had a garden and grow tomatoes, and it was just like, I come from that. That's like, awesome. So I've always been community oriented, and growing up, they were Southern people, and they migrated here to the North.
Sure.
And so growing up, you know, I would see just people weren't like that. I'm just like, what's going on? And I kind of got tainted a little bit. I'm just like, well, this is not normal. And then I began to appreciate it more as I got older, man. So, yeah, man, I'm actually, man, now I'm excited to connect with that part of myself, man.
Oh, 100%.
Man, it's really dope and amazing. You know, we've been going for a little minute, so I'm gonna kind of start to wrap up. But one thing I want to ask, I want to get into your current exhibit, and but first I want to start off with, you know, you talking about your upbringing and all these textures and all these colors and all these things that you appreciated about your upbringing. How do you think that has went into I know you don't, cause you say you're not an artist, you know what I mean? But how has that shifted these things that are inside of you, and these colors and these different things, man? How have they went into your design and your art, and how do you think they show up, man?
You know, I'm still trying to figure that out. You know, it's like, it's just like I said earlier, you know, a lot of what I've had the opportunity to work on and to be a part of has just been like, you know, an opportunity presents itself, and then I'll go, well, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I just start trying. Yeah. So the exhibit at Esoteric, you know, they reached out. I think they'd gone on my company website and saw that I had some merchandise for sale and stuff. So they just assumed I would just bring the framed merchandise with me.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be an artist in residence? I think that's what it was. At least that's what it came off as in our first meeting. I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to like create stuff that's within the context of this space.
Yeah.
You know, but like I had like 12 days to do it.
Yeah.
So it was a mad dash of like, you know, getting over myself, you know, getting over, setting aside as much of the doubt as possible, and just like go through a process of creation and elimination, and lean on my community. You know, it's like I had to find someone to print it. I've worked with a lot of printers around the city and around the country, but on such a tight frame, and also, you know, printing like fine art quality prints is hard to do with that time frame. So I reached out to a homie at Banacom, and he was just like, no. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
He was like, All right.
Yeah.
So I designed all that stuff. I designed about 24 pieces in 9 days, and I got it printed in 2 days, and then got it framed in 4. Because I had the same conversation with my framer, and he was just like, "That's an insane thing for you to ask me to do." And I was like, "I know that is an insane thing, but I need you, man." You know what I'm saying? And he said no, and then I called again. He was like, "No." I called again. He's like, "I'm currently framing 100 pieces at a hotel in Miami.
Wow.
I ain't got time for this."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's correct. You do not have time for this, but can you make time?" He's like, finally, he's like, "All right, man, I'll do my best." And he showed up for me, man. And
Beautiful.
And he brought the pieces in and helped me install everything. And like as we were dropping off the piece, he was just like, "It just dawned on me on the ride over here that like, do you remember that you gave me my first art show?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "My first show as an artist, you helped me pull it together. So it's crazy that I'm framing your first show
Right.
as an artist, like over a decade later." I'd forgotten that I did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he'd forgotten too, which I love. I love that, like, people aren't moving with sort of like this tit for tat energy. You know what I mean? But like when we came together to get it done, it was good to be reminded of like the beginning of the community that you were building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Before the thing got a little squirrely.
For sure, 100%.
And because back then it was just for sure about the love.
Yeah,
you know
100%. Of course, like, that's how it starts.
I was like, "Yo, you need something I got you." You know what I'm saying? Let's just go build a thing. You know what I mean? I'm learning how to build it because I'm getting to build it with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then to come back around and have him support me in my first thing, and I still don't really know if as a designer that I consider myself an artist, but because I know actual artists, you know what I'm saying? And I see them work and I'm like in awe of what they create, you know, but more often than not, like I'll say that to someone and they go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
It's like creating is creating. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like there's levels to this.
Yeah. I hear you. That's fair.
I'm thankful for the community of artists and designers who have been around and watched work, like my boy Rob, who I started Fire Room with. There's just little subtle touches to how he approaches design work that I know that I gleaned from him. You know what I mean? Or Matt, or AJ, or Beth, or Alicia. There's just like all these people that I've just like watched work, and I've given notes to and taken notes from, and sort of watched how they create and how they sort of pull the thing together. And that's how I got to this point. But I'm still sort of like trying to figure out what to call this current iteration of who I am.
It's like it's even hard for me, like, when certain people introduce me, like, yeah, like my boy, he raps, or I'm like, don't say that. Like, you know what I mean?
But you do rap.
I do. I just more so consider myself a writer. Like, you know what I mean? And I do things like this. I pick up my camera. I just like to, like you said, I just like to create. I just like to cook things. Like, I don't want to be a thing.
Oh man,
I don't want to be that.
I mean, how amazing is it to have a thought and then manifest it to something that other people can see?
Absolutely, 100%.
Like, that is such a rare experience. To watch thoughts transform into reality.
Yeah,
that I can't understand how one cannot be intoxicated by that experience.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
You know what I mean? It's like, that gives me so much, so much energy. You know what I mean? It's like, when I watch something that I thought about become a sculpture or something like that, I go, "What in the hell is going on here, man?"
Oh yeah.
It's like I was a part of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's a blessing to be a generator. You know what
course.
I mean? I would consider myself that, a manifester generator.
I like that. That's a good way of putting it.
Always generating.
It's very good.
We'll end it with this, man. You know, I know you mentioned before you're still working on it and you're still trying to find that path. So me and you both are generators. We're always creating and generating ideas and putting life into spaces. So as we're running out of time, you know, how are you currently? You know, give me 3 things. If you're not doing them, what were 3 things you would like to do to refuel your generator, to keep your generator going and to keep recharging?
You know, I need to play more soccer.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay.
You know, I feel like the pandemic put a big damper on that experience for me.
Okay.
But I want to get out there more often, play more ball, and pick up an instrument again. You know, I haven't played an instrument in so many years. You know, because I used to help produce albums and I was in a band and went on tour and stuff like that.
Word.
So I missed that side of me. I mean, I'm a mean freestyle killer in the kitchen.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
But I want to make more. I want to create more, more from an audio side of things, and because I think I'm still learning how to recharge intentionally, quietly. My approach to recharging is like, you know, finding a new avenue to sort of let out some creative energy.
I heard that.
So like on the pitch is more like, you know, camaraderie and being creative in small bursts. In the studio, it's like, you know, I listen to music all the time, but I don't think about creating music all the time. So I have all this pent up like potential energy that I want to like have to put somewhere.
Heard that.
So, and thirdly, this is funny. I was I was telling a friend of mine recently. I was like, I want to direct a commercial.
Gotta be fire.
And then she goes, "Have you ever directed anything?" I was like, "No."
Oh, yeah.
She goes, "Okay, then you should do it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Thank you for that."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, I mean, earlier this year, I was like, I'm gonna design a beer label, and boom, design one for Esoteric. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things where it's like, my turn down is figuring out a different way to siphon some of this energy.
You heard it from Rome, man. It's been wonderful talking to you, man.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Been a pleasure. I'm happy that we finally did this, man. We got it done, and I can't wait to share it, man. Thank you for just dropping all the gems, man. And one word that I got from you today that I'm thinking about is just the importance of connectedness. You know, being connected and how important that is. In just life, to keep that flow, to keep that momentum going. And I know that's when I feel the best, when I feel connected, you know, whether it's to my village, whether it's to my creations, you know, I just have to be connected and stay connected.
100%.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you, Rome. Thank you for coming out. This is another episode of The Village. And man, there you have it, dog.